Welcome to Marketing, Media, and Money, your go-to podcast for proven profitable strategies, secrets, and resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. Here's your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. And I'm very glad that you are here with us. And today, we're going to talk about content. So here's a question for you. What if your content didn't just sit there, but worked for you, bringing in leads, boosting your visibility, and growing your business 24/7? The key isn't just creating more content, it's creating content that maximizes SEO and social media impact. And when your content is optimized and repurposed strategically, it doesn't just get seen, it drives engagement, builds authority, and delivers real results. So today, I have a very, very dear friend who is an expert at this, and she, dare I say, is brilliant. She's my very dear friend and my accountability partner, and let me brag about her a little bit. So Tonya Gossage is a business growth strategist, podcast host, and the founder of Gossage Performance Consulting, where she helps entrepreneurs simplify, scale, and succeed by leveraging strategic delegation and AI-powered automation. And with decades of experience in banking and business development, Tonya specializes in content marketing, strategy, AI, and virtual assistant services, empowering entrepreneurs to work smarter, not harder. She's the host of the Influence and Growth Mastery podcast. She shares insights on building authority, generating leads, and mastering influence in today's digital world. And she's also the ambassador leader for Alignable's Little Rock community, where she connects and supports over 8,000, that's right, 8,000 small business owners through networking and collaboration. And if that's not enough, her latest innovation, the Who Not How plus AI framework, she helps entrepreneurs and small business owners outsource effectively and integrate AI as a key team member, allowing them to focus on high-impact growth activities. So if you're looking to scale without burnout, master delegation, and harness the power of AI, Tonya offers practical strategies and real-world insights to help you achieve your goals. So, Tonya, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for having me, my friend. I'm so glad to be here.
You know, I know as my accountability partner and my friend, I mean, when you and I get on a call, it's like, whoo. Here I say, I'm going to tell you that every time Tonya and I get on a call, and sometimes we get on a call, even if we're just putting on hair and makeup, we have learned over time to record every single call because we have never had a call that we didn't say, what was that we said? And so now we record all of our calls. Like, it is so funny. So if I'm in the bathroom doing hair and makeup, my phone is right there and we are recording because we always say something good. And I'm going to get to share her with you right now. So get your pen and paper because we're going to dive right in. So Tonya, let's just start with your Who Not How plus AI framework, right? And you've developed a structured approach, and you know, you're all about that, a structured approach to creating content, right? So can you break it down for us and explain how it helps entrepreneurs simplify and scale their content?
Let's do it, Patty. And before I do, I will say, you know, you and I being strategists, like you said, every time we get on a call, we just start firing up those strategies. And so if we don't record them, you know, we don't know what to implement. So we've got to have that recording right there next to us. So let's talk about the Who Not How plus AI framework. You know, this came to me one day after reading a book, and you and I being accountability partners, collaborators, we've talked about partnering in some way. And, you know, to me, it's all about the who. Who are you going to use in your business to, maybe it is to simplify things. You and I talk about breaking things down a lot. We talk about scaling a lot. We're talking about how are we going to grow our businesses even beyond where we are today. And obviously, in my opinion, you have to have AI AI is a team member, in my opinion. So the who, not how, plus AI framework is definitely designed to help entrepreneurs simplify, scale, and succeed, really by focusing on strategic delegation and automation. It's about finding who you can partner with, who you can collaborate with, whether it's a joint venture, it's a virtual assistant, it's a team member. But the core idea is that, Patty, you shouldn't do everything by yourself. And I know you have a team, but I shouldn't do everything by myself. And I've been a solopreneur. Instead, you should be finding out who can handle certain things for you or help you. Outsourcing is phenomenal. It's a great resource, but AI, again, is a huge player in this game as well.
And I think one of the things that really makes AI a game changer too, is I think that one of the things that entrepreneurs do, I know I did it in my business before I finally figured it out. We have a tendency to hire, collaborate, do joint ventures with people who are like us because it's more fun. It's more fun to surround ourselves with people who think like us because it, kind of fires off all the things. But the reality is that is not your best team. Your best team is not people who are just like us, right? It's really about finding the people who fill the gap where those are not our strengths, right? They're not necessarily your weaknesses, but sometimes it's just something you don't like to do. And I don't know about anybody else, but if I don't like to do it, it's pretty far down my list of things to do. And so, but what if you could have AI do that? What if AI could do the things that you don't love or are not your strengths? And then all of a sudden, you're so much more productive, right? So I feel like in so many ways, AI can have a place. And that's why I love it, how you call it a team, because it really is a team member, right? So I love that. So I know also that content creation sometimes is so overwhelming for people, right? They're thinking, oh my gosh, I've already said that. How do I consistently going to come up with ideas? So I'm going to ask you, how do you come up with fresh ideas for social media? Like me, you have a podcast, you have a Substack blog without running out of inspiration.
Patty, before AI, I will tell you it was very difficult. But with AI as my team member, Molly is my chat GPT. She's my helper, and I have other AI tools. But with AI, it's actually very easy. I come up with a content pillar strategy based upon my Who Not How plus AI framework to actually ensure that I have, number one, a clear purpose, and I listen to my audience. I'm very active on Facebook for sure. I listen to what people talk about, and honestly, a lot of times that gives me a structure for content ideas. And so, what are the pains that people are struggling with? What are the various different types of things that they're looking for? And AI is so hot today that, number one, people either don't understand, they don't know how to use it, they are looking for ways to help with their stress, their overwhelm. And so I take those ideas and I think about my framework and I think about how does that fit into my framework. And if I can come up with ideas that fit within the framework, then I create content about it. And I'm always thinking, I shouldn't say always, I have become.
Oh, you're always.
I have become, maybe I'll say more of a thinker about SEO because, my podcast, Influence and Growth, I think about how do you become more visible? And so SEO has become more important to me. And so when I started learning, Patty, about how your content helps you become visible, well, how does that work? And so, a lot of people want to be known. They want their brand out there. They want to know, how is this person doing it? How is that person doing it? And so I listen to what people are actually wanting. And, I don't struggle for content. AI helps me. I stay inspired because, I know what people are looking for. And let's just say there's a day that I'm thinking, oh, I need to do a podcast today, or I need to do a blog today, and I don't have my content strategy prepared for that week or for the month, then YouTube is the best search engine. Google is the best search engine, and you can go there. I can search for things that are within my framework and look for what's hot, and it will give me content ideas.
I think it's just so much easier now because, we used to do Google alerts, right? We used to have all these things and not that those things don't work, they just take longer, right? It's just a longer process, and you have to weed through all the things it sends you that really aren't accurate, right? I know in my freedom framework, when I'm thinking about it with YouTube, input equals output, right? So once you learn how to not just do better prompting, right, but to ask better questions, you'll get better content suggestions, right? That's what AI is so good about. Really ideating and brainstorming is really what it does. But a lot of times it can be as simple, really, while you're watching TV. It is simple as just going to YouTube or going to Google and typing in a topic, something that you just heard somebody say or whatever, and then looking at what's coming up. What are the most popular YouTubes? What is on the front page, of Google, and just looking at the topic and thinking, what do I have to say that could be different? Where's my point of view of what I could share that's, it's obviously it's on first page, right? So people are asking it, right? And there's a lot of tools that can do this for you too. But really, content ideas are everywhere. The question is, have you created a system or some type of process in order to take all those ideas? Like, how you see all those little things with the sticky notes all over and all that kind of stuff. There's so many ways that you can do it right now, but AI is everywhere in marketing, right? But I just think that entrepreneurs, they just don't know how to use it effectively. So how do you integrate AI into your content strategy to streamline that idea generation and save time?
Well, so, AI is a powerful content creation assistant for sure. It's not a replacement for strategy. I think we know that. I use it to brainstorm ideas. I use the tool to help get, headlines, angles, titles, just content ideas, drafting for blogs, the captions, the hooks. Hooks for me has not always been easy. So hooks are one thing that I definitely, use it for a strategy. I also oftentimes will use it as an outline for my podcast, and then I'll go back and, fill in some blanks. Again, the SEO optimization, finding keywords, hashtags, formatting for each platform. As we know, each platform is different. I may be creating something for Facebook because that's where I hang out the most, and Alignable. I'm hanging out there the most, but if I go to do something for LinkedIn or Substack, they're all different. And so, your strategy has to be different for each one of those. And so, AI plays a different role for each of them. And what is so phenomenal about that is once you season your tool that you're using, and I probably use ChatGPT more than I do my other tools, but once you season it, it will do a lot of that work, for you. And especially in repurposing content, it transforms the way it will create your content for you, especially like a podcast or a blog or, your titles and your hooks. It gets used to what you've asked for in the past. And let's say, for example, I forget to ask for a LinkedIn, hook. It'll come back and ask me, do you want this hook? Oh yeah, I forgot to ask for that. So it gets to know you well and will come back and help you with your strategies.
And I think one of the things too is, from a marketing point of view, it used to be, what are we typing into Google when we ask? Then all of a sudden it's more than that. Then all of a sudden it was, we now have devices like Alexa, which we don't want her to talk right now. So we used to, now we just ask them questions. And so I always tell my clients, are you optimizing for voice activated devices? Because when you ask them, you're not saying the same thing like you would type into Google, right? So you need to optimize for that. However, we've come even further than that. Now when you're thinking about AI, now you can talk to it. I very rarely type into ChatGPT. I just hit the microphone and talk. But what I love about it is, just because you're talking, for me, I love being able to say, what am I missing? Is there a gap here, or is there an opportunity here that I'm missing? And it'll come back and it'll say, oh yes, if you're going to do about this, the gap that you're missing here could be this. Would you like me to give you some information about that? Or something like that. And so really, in that case, it is so good. And sometimes I can even say, well, this is what I want to talk about. And I'll write it, or I'll even upload my whole article that I wrote, like for my magazine or whatever. And then I'll say, ask me questions and to see if there's any more that I have to say about that. Like maybe I wanted to write a 1,000-word article and I got it to 800. I'll say to ChatGPT, read this article and then ask me questions because I need 200 more words. And then it asks me questions and then I answer it. And then it does it, where you're not asking it to write for you. You're asking it to ask you questions and it pulls it out of you, right? You know what I mean? So, it's just such a great way now to be able to get into your own head.
It really is. I get used to asking it, what am I not thinking about? Talking about your gaps. What am I not thinking about that I should be thinking about? And I've even gone in, and as I'm preparing for various different proposals or other things, and I start making my notes, and I'll say, this person is in the X field. What types of questions should I consider asking, because this isn't my field of expertise? And it will come back and I'll be like, that's something I would have never thought to ask. And so, man, I'm telling you, it's just the perfect helper. Another thing, Patty, I'll share with you, this is pretty tricky, but it was so amazing whenever, so get your pen and paper out. I'm glad we're recording this.
Of course we are.
So the other day I was looking at an offer online, and I was trying to decide, should I buy this offer or not? And there was a couple of things that were in the offer that I had very similar. And I thought, I don't need another thing. I don't need it. But in the bonuses, you know how we are for prompts. We love our prompts.
We do.
And there was one in there for YouTube and SEO strategy. And you got to know that's where I am right now. And I thought, man, I really want that part of the bonus, but I wasn't going to pay the price just for that. And there were a couple of others in there that had some additional prompts. So you know what I did?
I'm going to guess, but go ahead.
I wrote a prompt to ask for the prompt to get those prompts.
Of course you did.
And what they were given in the bonus was like 100 prompts. But I just wrote the prompt for 25 just to see how good those prompts were. And I went, OMG. And so then I turned around and said, give me 25 more. It was phenomenal. And I was like, I don't need to buy the course now. I got exactly what I needed from that. And
I
those
love
are
that.
those are the types of things that I love about being a strategist, is taking something, and you can do the same thing with repurposing content. This is the strategy around taking one thing and thinking about how can I use this one thing to get more of it. And so, just taking that one little idea and saying, okay, the prompts that I got may not be the prompts that they had in that tool, may not be, but I got what I needed.
And I think that's what's really important too. And one of the things that I want to be really clear for the people that are listening, and this sounds really good, right? And it is. This is gold. This is absolute gold. But for some of you that are listening, you might be thinking, wow, that sounds amazing. And you just literally can't wait till this thing is over. And you've listened so you could run to ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using and start doing it. But for some of you, you may be thinking, wow, that sounds amazing, but I don't want to do that. Well, and that's great, because there are people like us who we love to do it. But not only that, I think it is really important to realize that strategy first is everything, because no matter what you create, you still have to market it, right? And AI won't do that for you, right? AI can do a lot for you, but it can't replace you. And it won't replace a coach. It won't replace, but what it does is it helps you so that when you are hiring someone, that they can jump right in and get to the meat, what used to take longer because you had to do all of that heavy lifting. It can help them right in the beginning get you results faster. So whether you're doing that yourself or whether you're hiring somebody, really, it's such a great thing. So I know a lot of times I hear people say, oh, well, do I not need to hire anybody anymore? I just need to AI will do everything for me. No, that's not actually true. However, it can help you reason out, why are you doing something? It can help you find things. It is still you though, right? It is still you. And so I think that is just really important. So if you're thinking right now, oh, I'm so overwhelmed with this, that sounds really, really good. Well, you just have to know that there are people like Tonya that literally could do it for you. So it is really great. So in some ways, it's easy to create content, but making sure that it aligns with your business goal and branding, that's a whole nother story, right? So just creating content to create content, because you can just get there and churn and burn a whole bunch of content, that doesn't mean it aligns with your business goals and your branding, right? So how do you ensure that every single piece of content stays on brand and is still engaging with your audience? Because that's the name of the game, right?
Yeah, it truly is. And, this goes with, my Who Not How plus AI framework is I have to make sure that the content that I'm going to create stays within, I'll say the bubble. Let's say the bubble of what I do. And if I get outside of the bubble, then I may confuse somebody as to what it is I do. Well, what does she do? And so one of the things that I've really started focusing on is staying within the parameters of the Who Not How plus AI framework. And, it's working on your business, not in your business. And you just made a very good point. If you just create content all the time, then we definitely need to have a conversation, because you're stuck. You're working in your business, not on your business. You need to be working on revenue producing things.
Absolutely.
and let somebody else take care of the content. So it's staying aligned with, my overall goal. So this piece of content that's going to go out, how does it align with the framework? Does it serve my audience? Is it educating? Is it inspiring? Does it solve a problem for them? Does it, help them with their overall goals? And if it doesn't, then it's out of alignment.
No matter how good it is.
No matter how good it is.
Oh, wow, that's really great content. Oh, I really like it. But that shouldn't be why you're creating content.
No. And 100% of it shouldn't be educational. 100% of it shouldn't be quotes. to always be inspiring somebody or all about mindset. While I love to do those things, not 100% of it is selling. There's people out there that sell 99% and 1% is educational. That is not me. I'm going to lean more on giving education, impact, those types of things. To me, the content sales, and we'll talk about that later. But, I use content pillars, make sure that everything stays on track with the content pillars, staying consistent, honing in on that style across all of the platforms. And then, just make sure that the value stays within the content, my personality, and,
I think that's what's important, right? Because otherwise people just get confused. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you see entrepreneurs make when they're trying to create consistent content, and how can they avoid them? Because I think one of the biggest things I saw is when AI came out, like everybody thought that, this was going to be the answer, and they were just like churning and burning all kinds of content. And then all of a sudden people I think this kind of confused the algorithm even too, because all of a sudden you're looking at people's content and they used to talk about this and that, and you really liked that. And then all of a sudden they had all this content. And while it looked like something that could be printed in a magazine or the newspaper and stuff, it really didn't go back to what they actually did. And now you were like, oh, did they pivot? Did they change? But instead what's happening is they're like, oh, wow, look at this. This looks really good. It doesn't matter how good it looks. It was random. How good it looks. If it doesn't go back to your business goals, your pillars, so to speak, and what it is that you stand for, it's just confusing people. It's just content then.
Mm-hmm. It's random. It's random content.
Yes.
There's no lack of strategy there. Just posting random to whatever's on their mind that day, with no decision really or thought put into that. So, honestly, they're wasting time when they do that. If you can't keep your stuff, your content structured, you're really wasting your time keeping your people confused. When I first started out, Patty, this is almost embarrassing to say this, but when I first started out, and I was listening to people on YouTube, I thought, dang, they just talk about the same thing, YouTube video after YouTube video. Well, now, I know why they do. I mean, that's what they do. And they do it for SEO.
That's what they're known for, too.
That's what they're known for.
Go from being an expert to an authority.
Yeah.
Right? So when somebody's looking for something like, oh, well, this is the person, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It makes so much sense. But here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Tonya, you're a pro at this, right? You have become an absolute pro at repurposing content across multiple platforms. And as we've talked about, right, what's on one shouldn't be on the other. There's a strategy for all of that. Okay. So for my listeners, I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deeper. So everybody get your pen and paper out, right? So can you walk us through, give us an example, walk us through the process of taking one piece like a blog or a podcast episode, and turning it into multiple posts without it being repetitive.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So I'll either start with, depending on what day of the week that I'm doing my content, where I'm drawing it out. And Patty, I love to delegate Mondays for that. Doesn't always happen on Mondays, but Monday is my day. I like to start with a core piece, whether that is either my blog or my podcast, because each of those go out on a weekly basis. So that's my framework, okay? And those are typically long form. Those are long form pieces of content. So I'll start with one of those and I will create it first. Then I take that piece of content and let's just say it's my blog first. So I'll start with the blog, and from the blog, I will create the podcast. And then from the two of those, because they're mirrored, right? They have similar content, but they're not the same title. Okay. But Absolutely. there is some repeat content in those two long form pieces. Then from there, I am going to create a Facebook post for my personal Facebook, a business or a group post. I'm going to create a LinkedIn post. I'm going to create an alignable post. And so all of those pieces, I'm just going to throw out there, I am not been an Instagram person. I have a VA who is taking care of did I say LinkedIn? I mean Instagram. I have not been an Instagram person. And I have a VA now who's taking care of that for me. But so each of those are built off of each other. So normally what I will do in whatever tool that I'm using, I will tell it to cross post, or I will tell it to spin, or I will tell it to create each of those posts based upon the content of the podcast and or the blog. And it will create them. And then I take those, because that's the structure. Then I reword them to put my human element in them. Now, I will tell you that the tools that I use, the majority of them, I'm able to put my human tone in them. So for example, my tone is an empowering mentor. That's the tone that I use, because being a previous trainer, that's how I speak as a mentor. And so I take that content and I make it more of my words, so that it doesn't sound like AI, unleash this, unlock that, because we typically know that is AI. And so that's how I would do it. So there may be a listicle blog that says the 5 key takeaways from my latest podcast, or it might say the number 1 content repurposing mistake, or there might be a story that I talked about in the podcast, because I do a lot of storytelling in my podcast. There might be a Facebook post that talks about, here's how I used AI to save 10 hours a week on content creation. Actually, that's on LinkedIn. But, there may be a story there. And then there may be a Q&A type post that comes out of that. So everything is pulled from 1 or 2 pieces of content, but it's all from the same content. Does that make sense?
It totally does, because I think one of the things that people know to be true is some people like to listen, some people like to read, some people like to be on this platform, some people like to be on that level.
Yeah, and so I will tell you that the same keywords that are in the blog and that are in the podcast are also going to be used in all of those posts. So if I've told it to use the keywords of repurposing, that maybe that's one keyword, the word repurposing is going to be in all 5 or 6 of those pieces of content.
Now, see, that's a great strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's go beyond that.
Okay,
let's go beyond that. So beyond the obvious repurposing tactics, what are some creative ways that entrepreneurs can squeeze more value out of their content than most people overlook?
This one is so good. And if you don't keep up with this, you're missing the boat. You're going to get a lot of content ideas from your audience. You've got to turn engagement into content. And when you are engaging on Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere, I'll give some great hacks here in this as well. You need to answer all of your comments, unless you're just getting hundreds of comments. And if you are, then you need to implement ManyChat. But you need to answer your comments, and you need to leave more than just one answer or one word answers. If you can leave up to 3 3-sentence engagement answers, you are going to drastically boost your algorithms. And when you have that engagement back and forth, you are going to get some great content ideas. And you can use those in emails, newsletters, blogs. You can link back to things. You can also go back and look at your past videos. Now Facebook's taken down videos, but if you download those, you can go back or even if you have your analytics that you've saved in a spreadsheet or something, you can go back and look at what your best content was and repurpose old content that was, Patty, even a year or two ago.
For sure.
Because if it did well then, it's going to do well now. One of the things that I do is I look at my memories. And if I have a memory that did really, really well, I repurpose that memory. And I will say something about what I said before, or I will even comment on the bottom of that memory. I just recently heard you can even change the date on that memory. Keep all of those comments on there. You talk about algorithm boosters for repurposing that type of content. It's just huge. So those are creative ways to repackage content and get some boost. It's phenomenal.
Yes, the memory thing, like I think every single day, and I have for, 10 years, every single day when I sit down with my coffee, it's literally in my phone at 4 a.m., even though it's not 4 a.m. when I hit my computer.
Right.
Right. That's the first thing so I see it, the very first thing to go look at my memories. Not only does it make you happy to look at them, like sometimes they're family memories or whatever, and that's always kind of nice as well. But you're right. When you look at those posts and you see, oh, wow, this got like 168 comments or something. And you know what else it does, I think? I think it keeps you in check too, because sometimes we learn new things and we learn new things and we learn new things and we're implementing them. And then you go back and you're like, wow, I used to do that and it really worked. Look at how well that really worked. Maybe I should do that again. Right? Sometimes I'll see things and I'm like, oh, well, I kind of got away from doing that. Now, I used to do this quote of the day every single morning. I was really known for it, to do it. I stopped doing it because the algorithm changed and I noticed that when I did it the first thing in the morning, that the rest of the things I post didn't get as much love, so to speak. So I wanted to get more juju from the value I was giving rather than the quote of the day. So I stopped doing it. But now I've noticed that when I do it a different way, it really is working. So, sometimes the things we did before are kind of good to look at too. So that memory tip was actually a really, really good one. So now let's kind of talk about local marketing, right? So local marketing. So there's so many platforms out there, right? How do you decide which ones to focus on when you're repurposing your content? Because there are so many of them. Now, I know you've talked about already that you are very active on Alignable, a community of 8,000 business owners. Like, I dare say that's a good idea, right? So how are you using that platform for local marketing?
So Alignable is huge for me. And honestly, Alignable does not get the credit that it should. I just don't think it is as well known as it should be.
It's underutilized for sure.
Yes. And it's great for people for their local market. And honestly, I'll say there's a lot of business to be had in Alignable. It is a networking platform. It is not a social media platform. It's networking. And so there's a lot of groups to network in. And there's a lot of masterminds. There's opportunities there to connect with a plethora of people that you want to connect with. And the platform connects you automatically, algorithmically, with people that you tell the system that are your collaborators or your referral partners. So it actually matches you, almost like a dating game. It matches you with people that you you say you want to connect with. And then
sounds like a concierge service.
Yes. And then you can set up, Zoom meetings if you want, to meet with those people. And people are literally looking for a referral system amongst themselves to see if you can trade, if you will, referrals with people. And so there's connection meetings that happen so that you can build your network. And then there's in-person events. And so that platform really builds credibility and deepens relationships within my local community. It has brought me quite a bit of business. I will say that. So I spend a lot of time there and Facebook. Honestly, that's where my relationships are really deepened. I got off of LinkedIn for a long time because of what I was building in Alignable. I'm really just now getting back to LinkedIn because of some local clients that I have that are deep into LinkedIn. And so I feel like I need to get back there. But Alignable is a great place for me. And so deciding where I'm going to put content, unless you have a great structure, you have a team, a strategy, it's hard to determine where all you're going to get your content out. And so, but yeah, those are the places. And then Substack is huge for me, Patty, to be strategic, to get a blog out every week, because I embed affiliate links there. I am getting some business from affiliate links. And I will tell you, Google, and again, this is because of the content strategy that I have, Google is sending the most traffic to my Substack. Honestly, I can't say Google is sending traffic to any other places because I can't see it. But I know that Google is sending traffic to Substack because I get a weekly email that shows me when someone subscribes, it shows me where that traffic came from, whether it came from Substack or whether it came from Google or whether it came from LinkedIn. And the majority of my subscribers today are coming from a Google search.
Now, that's powerful, right? That is really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to say those three are my main loves for content marketing and social media is Facebook, Alignable, and Substack.
And you said something that I really like when you said you'd kind of got away from LinkedIn, but then some of your clients are there and you're coming back in. And, nothing is in stone, right? Our business changes, we pivot, we do different things. So I think that is really important. People ask me all the time, oh, Patty, what social media platforms should I be on? Now, I have to tell you, if I had $1 for every time that somebody has asked me that question, and the answer is so simple. You should be on the platforms where your ideal clients are. That's the answer. Where your ideal clients hang out. That is where you should be. But I love that you create a strategy for these different things. And again, it is varied. Like some people do want to be in-person local marketing, right? Local networking. For me, for the past several years since the pandemic, I kind of got away from doing in-person networking locally. And only 3 months ago have I actually gotten back to that, right? I used to say, I build my business globally and I serve my local community, which I still feel that way about serving my local community. But only about 3 months ago did I make the decision to actually start doing local marketing, right? So I feel like, those things can change, but people do. Like, I think there is a time where people really want, and maybe that coincides with AI too. I don't know. I mean, it does seem like it happened around the same time. I think we're craving more human connection than we ever have before, right?
I agree.
And I think it's so important. And so really getting into that, I think, and having built that 8,000 community, I mean, that's pretty impressive right there, right? So I think that is really important. So people should really think about that, So you talk a lot about influence and growth mastery. I mean, it's the name of your podcast, right? Influence and growth mastery on your podcast, in your Facebook group, and on social, right? So you are consistent across the board, which I think is also very important and a great strategy. But how does a well-structured, right? You have this framework, you have these pillars, right? You're doing it across all the platforms. How does a well-structured content strategy actually drive business growth and lead generation? Because that's what everybody wants to know. That's all right. Sounds really, really good. And how does that equate really to driving business growth and lead generation?
So, Patty, in my opinion, let me step back 1 second, because I failed to mention, while we're talking about podcasting, I did not mention YouTube, and YouTube is important to me. But those others are more important at the moment. So now let's move into Influence and Growth Mastery, because that is the name of my podcast. And it's also the name of my Facebook business page and a group that I have. So, I feel like that a strong content strategy, it really contributes to business growth, lead generation, and it does the selling for you if you do it right. So it builds trust, it builds authority, it positions you as the go-to expert in your industry. And, when I first created that name, Influence and Growth Mastery, again, I wanted to help people get more visibility, more influence behind their brand. I wanted to help them grow. And again, that kind of goes with, building out a content strategy as well, because it does help you build that trust, build that authority, generating leads organically. It helps you to, the SEO part of it optimizes the content. It attracts the right ideal clients to you without having to use paid ads. I've not done any paid ads, which I think is phenomenal. And then driving engagement and nurturing relationships, being a huge networker, building relationships. The more people that engages with your content, the more likely they are to convert if you speak to what they're looking for. And that is important. You can put content out there all day long, but if you're not speaking to what they need to hear, then it's not going to convert. The other thing is naming things, I think, is just as critical. I'm fixing to talk about you and I here for just a second. I think naming things, just like I said about Influence and Growth Mastery, it's just as critical as your content is. If you don't have a strategy around what you're doing, it's for naught. You and I are strategic thinkers, and when we have a great idea, what do? We run to GoDaddy, and we're buying up, domains for whatever reason, because we're like, oh my gosh, that's such a great name. And, whenever I got my Who Not How plus AI framework, I was like, that's such a great name. And, so now as I'm doing what I'm doing now, I'm like, does Influence and Growth Mastery? And I love that name. I mean, I love that name. And like you say, I breathe it, I walk it, I talk it. But I'm like, does that really align with the content I'm doing today? Does it really align? And so within the last week, I started thinking about, how does that Influence and Growth Mastery message align with my framework? And I started thinking, there's got to be something that better aligns. And so I came up with the AI-powered CEO, which I think better aligns. And I say that to say, when you think about your content and the message that you're giving and the SEO purposes and all of that, you start thinking about, how often do people search AI on Google? How often are they searching CEO? How often are they searching on YouTube for those words? And so I started thinking strategy wise and content wise, it makes more sense to pivot to the AI powered CEO podcast and Facebook group versus influence and growth mastery, because probably fewer people are researching the words influence and or growth than they are AI powered CEO or CEO and AI.
However, I love that. But I think that there has been so now that we're getting into SEO and optimizing and all those things, right?
Yeah.
Those are really good thoughts. See, that was strategy and thinking that.
Yeah.
I don't want to say old school, but I'm going to say go back a little bit of time, not old school. It has always been, the strategy always was, you should name things the result that you get people. That's what people want. So the result was influence and growth. So that was a very good name. I remember when we talked about that, when you and I strategized about that, it was a good name, because when you're putting out all this content, what was the result that people were going to get? They were going to get more influence, business growth, right? And you were a master at it, right? That was it.
Yeah.
It was the perfect name. But again, we do pivot. Now, that's not to say that you still are going to get them those same results.
Correct.
However, it just means that the way people search now has changed.
Exactly.
So that is really a smart way to pivot, right? And I think that is really, really important. I have done that exact same thing, right? When you are thinking about it, what are ways that you can change things up? So, a lot of times people come up with something and they're like, nope, I came up with that and I'm just going to stick with it. And, in the world we live in now, you need to be able to pivot. But it doesn't mean that you're still not doing that. That is still the result that you get people. It's just that you're doing it a different way and you have evolved. And I think that is really important. So I applaud you for that.
So yes, thank you for that too. But and going back to the question, always be thinking about your structure. Think about your structure of your content. Think about the structure of your strategy, and does everything align? Does your titles, does your hooks, does your purpose, does everything align? And and I would also say, don't always make it about you, me. Don't always make it about us. Make it about the consumer, the client. Is your messaging speaking to them? And one of the biggest things that I would say that I've changed in my podcast, Patty, and my content is now, I used to come on and say, hey, everyone, it's so good to see you, or something along that line. I no longer speak to everyone. I speak to, hey, friend, it's one person. I try to speak to one person now instead of speaking to multiple people on my podcast or multiple people when I'm doing a piece of content. I try to stick to a problem that one person has. And for me, that has helped me, I think, create better content, speaking to one.
Oh, I think that makes sense. Every email, everything we do, we're talking to a person. People don't do business with a brand, a logo. People do business with people. And we need to always remember that. I think that's important. I think that's one of the things when we first met each other, we talk about strategy for hours and hours and hours. But we really agreed on some really important principles. Strategy first, relationships are what matter, right? Relationships are what matter, and that we didn't do paid ads, that we wanted to build our businesses organically. I have never done paid advertising. Now, with that said, I'm in marketing. Am I going to say nobody should ever do paid ads? No, I'm not saying that. There are times at a launch, there's times that my clients have done them, and it was the best strategy in the moment. But for my business, just like what you're saying about your business, it isn't a strategy that I use because I have built my business on collaboration and relationships and stuff. And I feel like in the business environment that we are in right now, relationships are the currency. And the second currency is attention. Those are the two things. And that's why your content matters. Relationships and attention. That is the currency right now. So we need to be aware of that. So I love that, it is hard sometimes to say, oh, this is what I was doing and now I'm going to change. I mean, I just went through a rebrand myself, right? And refresh my brand. And it was difficult. And it wasn't that I was changing everything about my business. I was just refreshing, not really rebranding, even just refreshing. And I think that is really important. But before we go, I want to touch on something that you also say. So being consistent with content and actively engaging on a personal level with people is really the name of the game. And I love that you shared with me, right, that people should really be careful about, what do you think about, it's kind of a pet peeve for me, so I don't want to really end with that, but really honestly, the whole DMs to sell, right? Selling in the DMs, right? I think there's a right and a wrong way to do everything, right? And again, I think that is really important. So because you're engaging and building relationships and you're using that content, is that a strategy you like to use or you teach or no?
So there's a place, in my opinion, to go to the DMs. What I would like to share with people is when you're engaging, there's, in my opinion, a right way and a wrong way to go straight to the DMs. What is a pet peeve for me, as you say, a pet peeve, is I will get a message in DMs that just says, hello. Or I'll get a message that says, Tonya, I love what you're doing. Can you tell me how you got into the business? And I don't respond. And I'll wait for a few days. And then they'll say, oh, I'm just following up. I love building relationships just like you. Do you mind telling me how you got started? And then I'll wait a few days. And then the next post is, boom, it's their sale. And I have one in my DMs right now, and I'm waiting for the right time to respond with, and I'm going to do it by voice. I'm going to leave her a voicemail, and I'm going to say, I would love to coach you on the right way to do this.
Well, because sometimes everything has to be a teachable moment for us, right? Something, it's a teachable moment, like, should I coach them on? But then again, haven't you ever had somebody come into the DMs and like they've been listening and they'll reference something that you talked about and they don't try to sell you, but they just share it. It starts a conversation and then the conversation does lead to a sale.
It does.
Start with that. Right. Lead with that.
For people that are listening, for those that are listening, if you want me to buy something from you, here's how you do it. Like my post, comment on my post, literally engage with me for a couple of weeks even. In LinkedIn, the people that I have literally done business with, that's what they did.
Yep.
They literally built a relationship with me by having conversations with me first. And then they've even gotten on a call with me and we built a relationship. Then I bought.
I think that makes sense.
It does. And when people come straight to me like that, I can spot out a sale. I mean, I was taught by Grant Cardone. I know high pressured sales. And so last night I declined 45 invites on LinkedIn. 45. I declined them because just by looking at their title of what they did, I was like, I don't even want to have to decline on the inbox.
We could do a whole show just on that.
Yeah.
But Tonya, this is a great information.
It's good.
Content from literally, I hope everybody's taking lots and lots of notes. I'm going to be listening to it again myself, which I do every time you and I have a conversation.
I love it.
Whether they realize it or not, it's like, these are the conversations that we have sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, right? Being a fly on the wall or just getting to, this is how we think, right? So it's been so great to actually have,
Thank you.
my accountability partner and my friend and the person that I talk about strategy with and getting to share you with my audience. This has been so great. I know they're going to want to connect with you, Tonya. So like,
Sure.
tell me what's the best way. Like you kind of shared where you're at, but tell them, where do you want them to go to connect with you?
So I'm going to say probably Facebook DM is the best. If they're not on Substack.
In the right way.
Yes, in the right way. Send me a message. If you send me a DM, let me know that you listen to this podcast, and then I will know that I can connect with you if you don't go and interact with me. My website is down right now. It's under rebrand, but it should be back up. I'm hoping any day now. So, but yeah, Patty, probably Facebook. I mean, I know you're going to put some links in the show notes, but Facebook is probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. So if you're watching or listening this, you're right. Just look below. We have all of the links of every place to find her. Unalignable, her Substack, like all of her social, her website link is there. By the time you listen to this or watch this, it will probably be there. So that'll be great. I encourage you to reach out to her, whether this is a topic that you are interested in learning more about it. I'm going to tell you, she is a natural networker, and it just comes right to her, and she's just a great connection. So thank you so much again, Tonya, for being here with me, taking the time. I really appreciate it. To my audience, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. If you haven't checked out our sister magazine, the Marketing Media Money magazine, please grab your free copy at m3digitalmag.com. And in case you didn't know, Tonya's been writing for our magazine for like 3 years. So if you want to know more about her, get the magazine. You'll get to learn a whole lot more about her there too, where she actually went deep into some of these topics. So thank you again, Tonya. Thank you to the audience. We'll see you again soon. Bye now.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine. I promise your business will thank you.